Use my black eye, by the way. It was the dog.
Yeah. Ah, there we go. Oh no, this is
That's Mohammed Rohim.
Mohammed Rohim.
We're streaming live.
Right. We're now streaming live on YouTube. So
Okay.
we're just ready. We're just ready for Councillor Rohim. We can't see you very well. Don't know if you can reposition your screen. We can see a lot of ceiling.
I don't think you can hear yet.
Right, how do I get rid of that? Just bear with me.
Hey,
No, please no.
Can't see us on YouTube at the minute.
live.
Market report. What's a bloody market?
It's showing on. It's definitely on YouTube.
Sorry, I was having problems there. What was happening there is that the live stream was playing back live whilst I was on Zoom. So I think I've stopped it. I've stopped the live stream because I need to know how I can do it without hearing the recording in the background. Otherwise, you're going to hear that unless I'm muted the whole time.
Just close down YouTube. Just close YouTube off your.
I have. So let's try again. Right, it says I'm live on YouTube. Can you still see it on YouTube?
Yeah.
Yes, it's on live.
Yeah, still there.
Fine. Right, so we resume then, please, Chairman.
Okay. Welcome to everybody live on YouTube. Welcome to Bletchley and Fenny Stratford Town Council meeting on the 27th of August, no, 27th of October 2020. I'd like to say welcome to everybody. And we're going to item 1 on the agenda. Members' apologies and absences.
Yes, I've received apologies for absence from Councillors Kennedy and Ely.
Going on to item 2 on the agenda, members' declarations of interest in any matters on the agenda.
I'd just like to remind everyone to think about their addresses when it comes to planning and licensing applications. If you've got a pecuniary interest, you will need to go into the waiting room for any items of discussion. So you may want to declare them now, or which, you know, they should be pretty obvious from the agenda. And at the time when the item comes up, you need to ask me to put you in the waiting room.
We've got Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Chairman. Just to let you know that one of the co-optees on item 6 of the agenda today, I was on a committee with him in regards to the landfill. We've not been in a meeting for, I think, over 6 months, and not really had any contact directly since then, but I just want to let you know, I do not think that it is a pecuniary interest. and I intend to vote on the matter.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Obviously, Pink Punters is on the agenda. I live fairly close, but I don't have any pecuniary interest, and I do intend to vote on the matter.
Can I just for guidance, if your property is close to the site, then you would certainly have a pecuniary interest in the licensing matter. It would be a prejudicial interest in the licensing matter. And my understanding of the legislation and the Localism Act is that whether you rent or own a property in proximity to Pink Punters, you could have a prejudicial interest. It is a matter for you to decide. It's not for me to tell you. But if you were to ask for my guidance, I would say that you had a prejudicial interest by way of your address.
Okay.
So it's a matter for you. Not
Yeah,
me.
no, it's fine.
Come to item 4 on the agenda, public speaking. Is anybody that's put in anything for them to speak about at this time?
No, there isn't, Chairman, but Councillor Humes raised his hand. I think he wishes to speak.
So on the previous item, just in the spirit of what Ethan has just done, I don't necessarily think it's or actually of any interest, but just so the council is aware that two of the people who have put forward for co-option, I have worked with both of them. One of them within the landfill and committee, and also one of them through the Locals of the Lakes groups. But that would have been with it as my role as a ward councillor on this council as well.
Okay.
Yes, I mean, it's almost inevitable that people will know and have worked with other people. So it's not it's good to declare it, but it wouldn't be a prejudicial interest or a pecuniary interest.
Okay, moving on to item 5 on the agenda, to consider the recommendation in the minutes of the meetings. Delia, can you run through the different agendas and meetings for me, please?
You're muted, Delia.
Sorry. So full council meeting on the 29th of September. So you've had the minutes, and there are you've had the minutes for a while. So everyone's had the opportunity to read them. So and I don't know if there are any questions on the minutes.
No.
In that case, can someone propose that they're accepted, please?
We propose that these minutes are being accepted by full council.
I'll propose it.
Yep.
So I think we have a vote, please, Chairman.
Can we have a vote, please? By raise of hands.
Okay, thank you. And then the next set of minutes were the minutes of the Finance Committee, which, as you know, the Finance Committee didn't take place for lack of a quorum, and therefore there are no minutes to approve or consider because the meeting was cancelled. And the next meeting is on the 10th of November. But it would be good if we had more candidates who were had more councillors who are interested in taking part in or participating in the Finance Committee meeting. We haven't put it on the agenda for election to that committee because we've had no nominations, but we will put it on the agenda in November. And if anybody would like to join the Finance Committee meanwhile, maybe they'd like to attend informally on the 10th of November.
Okay.
So
If any council, if any council wishes to go onto the Finance Committee, can you just express to Delia, and then she can put it on the agenda for the next time. Moving to item 6 on the agenda is co-options for Eton South and Granby. We have 3 councillors that are here. 2 councillors. Is it 2 councillors that are here tonight? Marie Wyman and Gavin Bedford. Welcome.
Yes.
We are going to hear from one of the councillors regarding the co-option onto these wards. Peter?
Would you like me to just remind you of the process, which I did on the last occasion when we co-opted? In order for a candidate to be co-opted, there has to be a majority of those present, a clear majority of those present and voting in favour of the co-option. As it stands at the moment, we've got the council's under no obligation to co-opt if they don't think there is a suitable candidate. Marie has expressed a preference for Ward, but I don't think that Gavin has expressed a preference. He may have a preference, and Mo Imram, who had also put himself forward for nomination, hasn't managed to join the meeting. So if he doesn't join the meeting, the best thing may be to well, it'll be a matter for you to decide whether to proceed without him or whether to defer consideration of his application for co-option to the November meeting.
Ethan.
I was just going to say that I propose that we discuss co-option tonight. The 2 individuals that have appeared tonight have appeared on 1 previous occasion, and also have made sure that they are here. And I appreciate that sometimes it is difficult for people at the last minute, but I do believe that people could contact and say why they've not been able to be here. So I propose that we go ahead this evening.
Yes, I wasn't suggesting, just for clarity, I wasn't suggesting that you didn't consider the other 2 candidates. I was just suggesting that you might consider deferring consideration of the 3rd candidate to another occasion.
Yes.
So now it's a matter for you, Chairman, as to how you wish to proceed, whether you wish to ask questions of the candidates or ask them to speak and explain why they'd like to join the council.
Yes, I mean, regarding Mohammed Imram, I think we should defer him to another time. But I would like to invite the candidates to explain why they want to become a councillor and the reasons why and what ward. So, who would really want to go first? Who'd like to go
Could we
first?
start with Marie, because she's
Marie.
first on the agenda?
So, Marie, how you doing? Good evening.
Hi.
So, yeah.
Well, you have already heard me speak before, saying why and what I do. So it's just to help locals of the Lakes and me as a resident of, I've lived here all my life, I'm nearly 40, so nearly 40 years. So to help the community get more involved with Fenny Town Council and just work together more. Stuff like that, really.
So, I mean, we know that you've been working on the Lakes for some time now. What speciality areas can you bring to the table for the council, and why?
Getting the word out there and doing, I mostly do events. So mostly doing events with the communities, more fun stuff for the kids more than anything, families, and getting the word out there about anything that's going on in the area.
Okay. Would any councillor like to ask any questions of Marie right now? And any councillors? Ed Hume? Councillor Hume?
Yeah, just a question, Marie. So I've put you on the spot, I think. You're clearly well known within the Lakes estate, and I just wonder what sort of I'm just thinking how to phrase this question. Just about the voice of the Lakes estate on this council, in terms of actually how do you think you'll bring that through to the council, the voice of the Lakes estate?
How would I get the word out there, you mean?
Yeah, or how would you get the word from the residents of the Lakes estate into the council?
Oh, by involving my group, Locals of the Lakes, and just through knowledge of and just importing stuff through. People don't always have to go through the page that I run to give out information to help spread the word for things and stuff. So
That's good.
Any other councillor would like to pose a question?
No, she spoke last time.
thank you.
So Delia, can we hear from Gary Bedford now?
Yes, it would be helpful to know also if Gavin's got a preference as to which ward he would like to be considered for.
I was thinking the Manor South one. Am I right in thinking there's a vacancy there?
There's a vacancy at Manor South and there's a vacancy at Granby.
Yeah, Manor South then, if possible, please.
Right.
Okay, Gary, good evening. Would you like to just give a brief explanation of yourself and what you do and why you want to become a councillor?
Well, hi everyone. I'm Gavin. So I've lived in the area for just over a year. I live on the Newton Lees estate. I want to become a councillor because I'm keen to make a positive impact on the community, and also because I've been here, as I said, over a year now. I want to find out more about the local community and take the next step and see how I can be more involved. I'm especially interested in ways I can help make the area environmentally friendly as possible. And as an experienced professional in the charity sector, I look forward to working with local community groups, but also the grant fundraising I find particularly, the grant applications I find particularly interesting because I am a grant fundraiser. So I can bring that expertise from the other side to that as well.
Does any councillors want to pose any questions to Gavin at this present moment? Nobody?
Councillor Hayne and Councillor Kelly Wilson.
Me first, do you?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Hello, Gavin.
Hi.
I'm Ron. So, do you do a full-time job as well as a 9-to-5 job, or do you do a normal job?
I just noticed that Councillor Hume is shaking his head, so I don't know what to say.
Yeah, and the clerk, could we just have some advice now? I'm aware that clearly time commitment is an important part of the question, but to define whether somebody has a full-time job in determining an application for this or their personal circumstances, I don't think it's actually relevant to the process.
No, I think
Well, I think a question on time commitment is...
I'll rephrase it.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Councillor.
Yeah, I'll rephrase it. Gavin, do you think you've got the time to spend as being a councillor?
Yes, I do, because I work, but also I haven't got many other commitments at the moment. And as I said, I'm keen to spend my free time where I can to support the council and support the local communities where I can.
Okay, thank you.
And was it, who else was
Councillor Kelly Wilson.
Kelly Wilson? You've got to unmute yourself, Ethan. Got to unmute yourself.
I was just really interested in what expertise from your day job do you think that you could add value to the council in?
Well, as I said, I know that a major part of the council's running is grant applications from community groups. And as an experienced charity fundraiser, specifically working with grant fundraising, I hope I can bring some expertise towards that. But also then I feel like I can help understand what charities in the local area and communities are going through my work within the charity sector.
Brilliant, thank you.
Okay, Delia, what is the next process from here?
I think if no members have any further questions, then I'd ask for a resolution in regard to each of the potential co-optees. If we perhaps start with Marie, and I'd ask for a member to make a proposal, please.
Propose Marie. Oh, sorry.
So Ethan would like to. He's put his hand up. Ethan.
I think Michael's already said what I was going to say. So.
I think yes, a proposer and a seconder there. I think.
I didn't actually hear it because everybody's on mute
Yes,
at the moment,
sorry,
so
yeah,
I didn't actually hear
I'll
what the
propose Marie for the Eaton South, obviously.
Did you hear that, Chairman?
So the proposal is listed, yes. And I think, is it Ethan that's seconding it?
Yes.
So what we'll say is all in favour of
Mhm.
Marie will put Eton South.
Yes.
All in favour? Show of hands.
Yes. I can't see Councillor Roham vote. I know he's
Yeah,
voting, but thank you, Councillor.
Is that everybody?
Councillor Hewitt, did you vote? I couldn't see. I've lost Councillor Hewitt.
Yeah, he's frozen.
Did you vote?
Yes, Councillor Hewitt did vote yes.
Did vote. So I think that's a unanimous vote in favour.
So welcome, Marie, to your ward of Eton South. So welcome as a councillor.
Thank you. Can I just say, Councillor Graham, sorry, I don't want to correct you, but my surname's Weimer, not Wyman. Yes,
Weimer.
please. Thank you.
So, Chairman, I think the same procedure again with the Manor South vacancy. Could I have a proposal?
I'll propose.
Councillor Kelly Wilson and Terry had the hands up. So you've got a
Seconded,
proposal
yeah.
and a seconder there.
Okay, so the proposal's in. Those councillors want to vote for Gavin Bedford for Manor
Manor
South.
South.
Manor South. Can you show of hands, please?
And assuming you're voting in favour, Chairman, that would appear to be unanimous.
Okay, so
if I could just say what I said last
welcome
time we
Gary
co-opted.
Bedford to ward of Manor South.
Thank you.
Welcome as a councillor.
Thank you, everyone.
Just to be clear for the rest of the meeting, that the new councillors will need to make their declaration of acceptance of office before they can participate fully in the meeting. But we'll make sure that that's arranged in time for the next council meeting, and I'll be in touch with both Gavin and Marie to sort out all the administration and so on, so we can get started. And we'll be having some shared training with Councillor Stevens.
Okay, I've seemed to have lost Gary Councillor Kenworthy. Is he still there?
I can see you. Can you hear me and see me? Yeah. See me voting?
Thank you. Right, so we're moving on to item 7 on the agenda, which is planning applications comments. So moving on to application 7.1, Pink Punters, 2 Watling Street, Bletchley, provision of storage containers, retrospective. Has anybody got any comments?
Perhaps before you start, Chairman, could I just remind everyone that the fact that the application is retrospective is not a material consideration in terms of the comments that are made.
Mm-hmm. So, Councillor Hume. Councillor Hume.
Yeah, just 2 comments on this application and why I think we should raise our concerns on this to Milton Keynes Council. One is the reduction in parking on the site. A number of people do park there when they're out overnight and drive away safely. But also just some concerns about the look of shipping containers. I don't think it's necessarily in keeping with the rest of the site and the buildings on the site. So they're my 2 objections, really. So on that basis, I would propose that we object to this based on the reduction in parking spaces, but also the storage containers not being in keeping with the rest of the area.
Councillor Ethan Kelly Wilson.
Thank you, Chair. I am having a bit of an issue with the drawing, because my understanding is of that site is those containers are below the car park. So they're on the ramped area. So that does anyone know if that's correct?
They're double stacked, so they're above the car. The second level is above the car park,
Right.
so it can be seen. It can be seen clearly from the road.
Okay. And just in terms of what Ed said on their application, they said they've got 49 spaces, and they still have 49 spaces. So has anything moved?
Is that the end of your comments?
Yeah.
Ethan?
Yeah.
Yeah. Gary, Councillor Kenworthy.
Thank you, Chair. I believe that it used to be a lot higher than 49, first of all. It was around about the 90 mark was the number of parking spaces at one. We've dealt with at least 4, I believe, applications that were all retrospective, and the figures don't seem to sort of tally over time. And not only retrospective, which I know is not material, but what's been asked for quite often is materially different to what has gone ahead already. So we've been approving lots of retrospectives, but the 49 doesn't seem an accurate figure to me is one concern. The double stacking, I think everyone, if you go down Watling Street, the old High Street area, double stacked containers is an eyesore to the neighbours as well. That's another factor. And you're right by the River Ousel. And of course, we have a lot of heavy rains and we've had flooding around that area. I mean, what has actually happened in terms of subsidence, etc., and how the Ousel has been affected, and has that contributed to the flooding that has occurred around the plain areas and housings in the Ousel? There seems to be a connection, which is of a concern that I think Milton Keynes Council and the Environment Agency should take note if these have been causing the contributing to the flooding.
Okay, thank you very much for your comments, Councillor. Has anybody got anything else to say on this? Sam, Councillor Brown, take yourself on mute.
Yeah, I've done it. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Right. Yeah. Over the number of years, Pinks have all done retrospective planning, which I'm not happy with, because we can't scrutinise it properly because we've already built it. We've been having issues in Milton Keynes where the planning department have been putting things through and not looking at it properly at Central Milton Keynes. And I think the containers are too big. They're going to be an eyesore. And I just don't think Pink should get away with it. I just think it's disgusting the way they carry on and think they can just do what the hell they want and put whatever they want in place without having proper planning going through and inspecting properly. So I just think we shouldn't adhere to the planning or the retrospective planning they have done. And that's my opinion. Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. I've got Councillor Hume and then Councillor Stevens. Take yourself off mute.
My favourite thing to do is not take myself off mute. So I mean, I originally proposed that it was around parking and not in keeping with the site. With regards to Ethan's comments, actually just checking the plan application, it is appearing to be the same number of spaces, despite the fact that it may have reduced over the years, according to the verbatim comments here. So I think my proposal I would adapt to being that we object in that the containers are not in keeping with the style of the rest of the site.
Can I just point out, Councillor Hume?
Councillor Stevens, next.
It's just a quick one. is there any indication of what these containers are being used for? The
think
purpose of them?
I think they're used for storage.
Just storage. Is there any indication what things they're storing in there?
It says waste on the application.
Okay, so is that a potential problem with the River Ousel being right next to it?
Don't know.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know. Councillor Porter.
I just wanted to respond to Ed's comment. The increase in size of that building, because there is an extension between the containers and the main building, has reduced the spaces that were there. So the current 49 spaces were calculated prior to the 4 shipping containers that have been put onto that site, and an extension to the building as well. So you're actually losing somewhere between 12 and 13 spaces by those shipping containers being on there, as per their previous application in 2019, to reduce the site from 89 spaces to 49. And I might like to point out that Phil Graves from Milton Keynes Council had raised an objection against that based on the fact that parking would spill out onto the streets, and there were already complaints from the neighbours, and there were already issues with noise and antisocial behaviour, and that's well documented in their previous application. So I think it's probably just worth pointing that out to you, that there is a loss of spaces.
Okay, so we've had a proposal from Councillor Hume. Can you, Councillor Hume, just go through that again?
On mute again. My proposal is that we object on the basis that it is not in keeping with the rest of the site. And we just raise concerns to what's being stored in there, and to ensure that it is safe storage.
Can we have a second for Councillor Hume's proposal? Councillor Brown is seconding. And so, all in favour, can we have a show of hands for all in favour of Councillor Hume's proposal?
That's carried.
Is that everybody?
I don't know what your vote is, Chairman. Were you in favour of the?
Put my hand up. Can you see me? Sorry.
Yeah.
Any objections? Okay.
Were there any abstentions from that, out of interest?
Say that again?
We had a vote for and against, but I don't think we did a vote on the abstentions.
Well, I think it was unanimous,
Okay.
Councillor Hume.
So moving on to item 7.2, the landfill of 174 Western Road, Bletchley. Erection of a detached bungalow and associated works. Any comments? No comments? Councillor O'Rourke. Take yourself off mute, please.
Unmute, there you go. Hear me now?
Yep.
I visited the site yesterday and I'm at a loss as to how they're going to put a driveway there when BT have put some great big boxes in the front just recently. So I can't see how it's going to happen. Will somebody explain it to me?
Ooh.
That's it.
Is there, have you got a proposal?
You can't put the driveway there if BT have put those great big cabinets there.
Yeah.
For computers and whatnot, and they're not going to move them. So I don't know how they're going to get on and off the site.
So have you got a proposal then, Councillor O'Rourke?
Not really. They can go ahead, but I still don't know how they're going to move all these BT stuff.
Has any other councillors got anything to say about this application?
I think Councillor Kenworthy's indicating.
Oh yeah, that's what I can't see. Councillor Kenworthy.
Thank you, Chair. I very much doubt, by the sounds of it, BT are going to move it. So if they're recently been put there, that's by permission with Milton Keynes Council. It does seem at odds, and therefore I think Councillor O'Rourke has got a valid point of how's it going to work.
So, have you got a proposal, Councillor Kenworthy?
I think we need to check with Milton Keynes Council. You know, what order was this doing? Because they seem to be non-complementary pieces of planning, and so that should be checked and resolved first before we put our name to it. If we've been given, you know, local knowledge and local information that it's not feasible, we would look a bit silly if it went ahead and someone turned around and said, well, Bletchley and Fenny Stratford Town Council thought it was all right. We'll get our pictures in the paper.
Okay. Councillor
Councillor Kelly Wilson wanted to speak.
Councillor Kelly Wilson.
I'm really unclear from the documentation in the application whether what they're seeking to do is split the site of 174 into two or not, because it says that pedestrian access to the property in the design and access statement is at the front of 174 Western Road.
Yeah.
So I'm really unclear.
Okay, so has any council got any proposals so that we can
leave it to Milton Keynes?
Eamon, what would you say? Sorry.
I said just leave it up to Milton Keynes because there's nothing we can do about it. We can't object to the construction.
No comment.
So there's no comment. No.
Are we going to make a no comment as a no? So we're going to make a no comment on this application.
I think Councillor Kelly Wilson still wishes to speak.
On the basis that it says that the property, the access will be through 174, I do not believe that this is enough on-plot parking, and I would be concerned about, I don't know the roads myself, but I do believe that there have been parking issues around there.
Yes.
So on the basis of the current plan, I propose that we do submit our concerns and object.
So is that a proposal?
Yes.
Have you got that, Delia?
There's an objection on the grounds of insufficient parking.
For both plots.
For both plots.
So have we got a seconder? Gary Kenworthy. Councillor Kenworthy seconded. Can we then go to the vote on the grounds of insufficient parking? All in favour?
7, 8, 9. I think that's carried.
Is that everybody?
I don't think Councillor Hume voted.
Any objections? Any abstentions?
Councillor Hume.
1 abstention. Okay. So moving on to item 7.3.
Councillor Graham, breaking up.
Land adjacent 16 to 16A Watley Street. So, has any councillors got any comments?
Your signal's not great, and you keep on breaking up a little bit.
Shall we try and persevere and see what see how things develop?
Yes.
He's got his tongue stuck out, unfortunately.
Has frozen there. It was freezing earlier. Can you hear us, Councillor Graham?
Yes, I am. Yes, I can. So, someone spoke just a little while ago, and I didn't hear who it was.
I think Councillor Hume was just pointing out that we're having difficulties with your signal, and I was suggesting that we just persevered and to see how we get on, and then take it from there.
If you are experiencing problems with my signal, if you can pick up the slack, Delia, and carry on the conversation till
I can
Zoom
assist,
back in.
but if I can assist as far as I can, but if it becomes impossible for you to chair, I think that we need to then reconsider the situation.
Yeah, okay. So has anybody got any comments for this application? Or is it a no comment? So there's a no comment, okay.
Yeah.
Moving on to item 7.5, 18 Eaton Avenue, Bletchley.
7.4.
7.4, single story rear extension and internal alterations. So any councillors got any comments?
No comment.
No comment? Okay. Moving to 7.5, 13 Clark Road, Bletchley. So any councillors got any comments? No comments? So that's no comment as well, Julia.
Okay.
Okay. And that concludes all the applications.
All the planning matters.
Planning matters.
But we then move on to a licensing matter.
Right, so it's item 8, to respond to application extending licensing hours in Fenny Stratford convenience store, Watling Street. Delia, I haven't got the paperwork with me at the moment. Could you read this? Because I've put in a proposal.
Yes, you have, and members have a copy of your email in which you proposed, I think, objecting on the grounds of protecting children from harm and prevention of public disorder. So grounds 1 and 4. I can complete the paperwork on behalf of the council if the council is prepared to support that objection. But there will need to be a member of council who goes to represent the town council at the subcommittee hearing. Otherwise, there is no point putting the objection in. And I would advise the council that it cannot be Councillor Porter, because I believe he is disqualified. He has a prejudicial interest by view of his proximity to the location.
I can support the application and go to the licensing hearing if it needs to, if the council wishes it. Councillor
Councillor Hume wished to speak.
Yeah, well, I just want to say that I'm in support of this motion, and if the date doesn't fall and work with Councillor Graham's diary for the licensing committee, then I'm happy to represent the council on this at that meeting. What I would really just like to just say is, having spoken to some residents in this area, I know of one where there is a resident who it's really sad, really, because of the issues of public disorder in that area of the town, which has not been the case, which have disappeared this year for some reason. But in previous years, there has been a lot of disorder in that area, and that has been difficult for them. And one of the problems that they have had is that they have had family members say that they will not come and stay with them. So that includes grandchildren, because of the situation along the Watling Street. So I do have significant concerns with this convenience store opening till 1 o'clock, and the fact that it may increase the amount of disorder that is already occurring there, which I'm aware that the police have had reports on, and such like, and licensing teams are already aware of.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Hume. Councillor Kelly Wilson.
I have given some thought to this, and I know that there are a number of other premises out within probably a 10-minute walk that are either 24-hour licenses or have licenses to a later terminal hour. However, having had a drive about, one of my concerns is that if this license was extended, it's maybe used by people to preload before they go into pink punters. And actually, I think that because the alcohol is sold at a cheaper price, and that may or may not be the reason that the application's been put in, but I would be concerned that there is likely to be an increase in public nuisance and crime and disorder if that is the case, because what we shouldn't be encouraging is people to obtain alcohol to stand in a queue and drink before they're going into a venue.
Okay, so the proposal has been already seconded by, I think it's Councillor Ron Haynes.
Yes, it's been
Yeah,
proposed
you
and
still there?
seconded. Yes, certainly, and that the candidates to go and speak will be you, Councillor Graham, and if you're not available, Councillor Hume will step in to represent the council. So that's that's the proposal that's been voted on. I think Councillor Graham might be raising again.
As long as you can let me know what date and time the actual licensing,
Yes, I
should
will.
be able to make it.
Yes.
So all in favour,
Sorry, a
all in
point of order,
favour of the
Chairman.
proposal. Oh, sorry.
Just wanted to say a point of order. Sorry. What I meant to suggest is that I can see that what your motion says, but I think the preloading point needs to be considered by the licensing committee. So could I amend your proposal to actually state that we are concerned about the cumulative impact of this license and the vicinity, the close vicinity of the two licensed premises, and that people may use this new extended off license in order to drink before they get to the other venue.
Yes, I'm quite happy for that to be amended. Do you get that,
Like to move to the vote, Chairman?
So those councillors would like to vote on this proposal. Raise your hands.
I think everyone in favour, and I think Councillor
Is that
Porter's I think I'm
any
abstaining.
any objections?
I'm not voting on this one because of pretty much a conflict of interest. So,
Any abstentions? So that carried.
Yes.
Okay.
Indeed.
Okay. Well, I've just lost my. Yeah.
So, are you okay, Chairman? Can you see?
Yep, fine. Yep. Moving on to item 9, to receive a report about social distancing measures in Queensway.
Yes, I think the report, I hope that everyone's had the opportunity to read the report. I think it speaks for itself. I have no further information to add since I wrote the report in time for the meeting that we hoped was going ahead last week. Since that date, I have learned that further work is being undertaken by Highways, but there is still no to investigate the feasibility. But there is still no decision on whether Stanley Square is whether the Milton Keynes Council is willing to permit the market to take place on Stanley Square, and therefore I cannot say any more than is already in the report. Just to say I've followed it up and there's no decision yet. That's a matter for members to decide what, if anything, they wish to do at this stage.
Can I open it up to the councillors for any comments? Councillor O'Rourke.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes, Councillor.
I suppose because of the inaction, and clearly Milton Keynes Council, Emily Darlington's not taking a blind bit of notice of anybody. We'll just leave it to she can answer to the electorate. As far as I'm concerned.
Okay.
And that's it.
Okay. Any other councillors for any comments? Councillor Haynes.
I think Milton Keynes Council are doing their usual thing, dragging their heels again, and hoping it's all going to go away with it, and they're going to look at where we want to put the market, and that's where the people want the market, and they come back with a feasibility, and they mess us about for months on end, and then we cover the comeback for this. We get the comeback for this, and I feel that we should chase Milton Keynes Council and say, like, we want it done in weeks, not months, or even done in days. You know, we need to push them along a little bit, because they just drag their heels all the time, and it's an unsafe area what they've got down there, down the other end of Queensway, where there are no entries, because everyone's driving down there now. No one bothers to stop. If they want to go down there, they just drive down there, and if they're not sure of the area, they're driving down a one-way street the wrong way. You know, it's getting more dangerous every day. You know, and we can't afford to have deaths on our hands.
Okay, Councillor Stevens.
Yeah, the other thoughts is the number of market traders. The longer it's taken to resolve this and move the market, then we're less likely to attract more market stallholders.
Yeah.
Could I speak on that matter, Chairman, please?
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, we've had instructions from council to do some advertising of the market, and we have prepared an advertisement and found places to advertise. We're a little bit wary about placing the advertising without being able to be specific about where the market's going to be. I think that point's very well made, and I was going to mention it later on when we talk about the market report. But yeah, absolutely.
I mean, is there any in your wisdom, is there any way that we can probably speed up the process to get Milton Keynes Council to engage with us in a more robust way, so that, you know, they clearly understand that our residents want a decision and our market traders actually want a decision on what's going to be happening? Is there anything we can do to speed up this process?
I think we've already had a meeting with Councillor Darlington, who is the portfolio holder for Public Realm. I have made as many representations as I feel able to make to Milton Keynes Council. I think the only thing for council to do is write again to Milton Keynes Council, either to Councillor Darlington or.
Can I make a suggestion? I don't know how the rest of the councillors feel, but when I think that, you know, Bletchley and Fenny Stratford Town Council are doing a good job and trying to do what's right for our residents, I sometimes feel that Milton Keynes Council have put Bletchley and Fenny Stratford Town Council in an awkward position, and also we need a decision to be made, and that's what's been reiterated by some of the councillors and some of the residents. Sometimes I think that we should invite Councillor Darlington to our meeting so she can explain to the residents herself what's happening, because we keep getting left behind, and I think that we need to start to put Milton Keynes Council in a position to explain themselves. I don't know how anybody else will.
That's a reasonable suggestion. We do send the agendas to all the ward councillors, and they're free to you know, ask for a spot on our agenda at any time. There's no reason why we can't issue the invitation the other way around and ask Councillor Darlington to come and speak to us.
I mean, at one time, I remember at one time we used to invite ward councillors to our meetings to send a report in on what they're doing, and what we used to have our ward councillors meetings, and they used to come to Bletchley and Fenny Stratford Town Council as our ward members that represent Bletchley and Fenny Stratford Town Council. They should be at our meetings explaining what they're doing for our residents and what they're doing on behalf of our council. And I really think that we should have them come to our meetings more often.
Can I just reiterate what I've just said, that they are invited. We do send them the agendas, and I can write to them all again and ask if they're prepared to make reports. But it's not that we haven't asked in the past. You know, we have asked for reports, and I think it, you know, our ward members are very busy.
Okay, is anybody, any other councillors got anything to add No.
So just so I'm clear for the minutes, so the proposal is to invite Councillor Darlington to attend a meeting to talk about this issue, to attend a full council meeting to talk about this issue.
I would like to propose that, yes. Anybody would like to second that proposal?
Councillor O'Rourke's seconding.
Seconding.
Would you like to take a vote, Chairman?
All in favour of that proposal?
Yes, that's carried unanimously, I think.
Okay. Okay, so we'll do that, Delia. Is that okay?
Yes. Yes, I'll get onto that straight away tomorrow.
Okay, so moving on to item 10 on the agenda. A response to the government white paper planning for the future, August 2020.
Yes. Would you like me to speak to that one, Chairman?
Yes, please. Go ahead.
So I have prepared a draft response to the white paper on behalf of the council, and I hope people have had time to look at it. It follows the online format which the government would prefer us to use. So the items in red are is the wording that I'm proposing to the council to endorse. Obviously, I'm sure you'll have alterations and suggestions for different comments. I've prepared it based on my knowledge as an officer and my knowledge of what has been said at planning meetings by this council in the past. That will go to the department. There is also then a draft proposed, the text of a draft letter proposed to be sent to our local MP, Mr. Ian Stewart, on the subject of the planning white paper, and that is more of a summary rather than all the detail that's gone into in the online response. So I need to know whether council wishes to submit this or how they wish to change it.
Has any other councillors got anything to add to what Dean just said? Councillor Hume.
I actually think Councillor Kelly Wilson had his hand up first, so I'll let him go first.
Yes.
I'll let you go first, Ethan. I always go first.
I was just going to say, so firstly, question 7, how could strategic cross-boundary issues be best planned for in the absence of a formal duty to cooperate? And I've been working alongside Councillor Hume and other Milton Keynes councillors recently on issues pertaining to Bletchley landfill. And this is a split site, as is between Buckinghamshire Council and Milton Keynes Council, as is the Newton Lees development. And what I don't think is covered in here is actually, because every council has the right to set their own constitution as they see fit, whether you're even allowed to be consulted or even speak at a meeting is determined by that council's constitution. So, for example, there is a road in Newton Lees where, if you lived on one side of the road, you could speak at that meeting, and if you were on the other side of the road, then you can't. And two different councils. One believe there's no loss of amenity, and one is the other. From a council perspective, we are a statutory consultee within the Milton Keynes area, but it was difficult to persuade the planning committee to hear this council's view because we are on the Milton Keynes side of the road, and that's ridiculous. I think that there needs to be more strength added to cross-border development, how cross-border developments are treated. Every cross-border development, because there's likely to be so many more of them in the future. Actually, I do believe that both councils should be, all of the councils that would normally be consulted should be consulted by both local authorities. I don't know if I've explained myself very well. And the second point, question 8A, local council. I feel that we're the local council for this community here in Bletchley and Fenny Stratford, and I just believe that the whole consultation and the letter, well, I think we need to get across that we are closest to the community here, and we there should be more increasing duty to consult us on the whole gamut of stuff, not just the planning application itself, but what infrastructure needs to go in, what community assets need to be provided. Quite often it feels like we're being brought into the conversation when the deal's already been done. That's the wrong way around.
Well said.
Councillor Hume wished to speak.
Councillor Hume.
Completely agree with Councillor Kelly Wilson. I think I just want to express my thanks to also the clerk for going and providing some responses for us and for the letter. I do think we need to strengthen in the letter the impact that it has. We need to strengthen the impact this has on the community in terms of the community consultation. I think the white planning diminishes the community involvement in planning, and I do feel we need to express that very strongly to Ian Stewart and maybe some stronger language. I'm not quite sure what that language should be, but I think it could be a little bit stronger in its language.
Thank you, thank you, Councillor Hume. I also would like to say that I totally agree with Councillor Kelly Wilson on what his comments, and Councillor Hume. Delia, is there any way that we can strengthen your proposal?
Well, perhaps we could go back to the points that have been raised. Firstly, on the cross-border development, question 7B, how would you like to change that response? Because I've already said it's not effective at the moment, and the question is, how could it strategic cross-boundary issues be best planned for in the absence of a formal duty to cooperate? Well, I've said that we don't approve of the abolition of the formal duty to cooperate, but it's not working anyway. But what else can we say about what we think would be a positive way for it to work? I think Councillor Hume's got a proposal.
So I think what we're saying there is okay, but I think we need to be talking just about that there needs to be fairness across different councils and how they deal with members of the community.
Yeah.
But I also think we also need to point out that the duty to cooperate needs to be earlier on in future planning as well. So, for example, planning in terms of Milton Keynes, and Milton Keynes Council have put in their Futures 2050 plans for actually how the wider area could maybe work with Milton Keynes being the economic centre. And that cooperation needs to be there from other councils to work with the council and vice versa. Because ultimately, the impacts of those developments have a huge impact on us, and we're paying for services that those residents are actually using in Milton Keynes, where they're not necessarily paying for them.
So are you happy for me to amend that question 7B to include the comment about that you want to see consistent standards applied from one planning authority to another on the cross-border developments?
Yes.
Right. And then the thing about the earlier point, the getting involved earlier, that does come elsewhere in the it does come elsewhere, doesn't it? In the
It does.
Again, do you want me to strengthen that point about the earlier development, that the infrastructure, the involvement in the infrastructure implications at the very earliest stage?
I think
Councillor Kelly, you did say something about question 9A, didn't you?
I think it was 8A, Delia.
8A, was it? Yes, that's why I'm confused.
I think it was just basically, it feels like we're always coming in the end.
Yeah.
And actually, I think that we should be involved in
a much earlier stage.
Earlier stage.
Are you happy? Yeah, I think I understand that.
And just to add why it's important, we're closer to we're the closest council to the community, so we understand what is needed in Bletchley and Fenny Stratford and its community.
Okay, I think, are you happy for me to amend those two responses along those lines? I think I understand what they are if you trust me to amend them.
Yes, could I also ask that I propose that we add something about the importance of local and parish councils in the letter to Ian Stewart?
Yes.
Yeah. Do we need to take a vote on this, or are we quite happy for you to make them amendments?
Just going to the letter now, if I may just ask for clarification, please. So in the letter, if I strengthen the comments about the role of town and parish councils and the disenfranchising essentially of the community through the proposed changes, is that sufficient, or is there anything else that you wish me to add to that letter?
I think that should be sufficient.
I think just to reinforce the point that whether it's still or section 106 funding or a new infrastructure levy in the future, actually quite often the principal authority and us as a local council have different objectives, and you know, I've always argued that some of our communities have assets, but we don't have assets, but actually through the section 106 we're contributing to a university which some of the people here might not want to go to, you know. So I feel that we need to be involved in that conversation a lot earlier because there may be other objectives.
Yes, so I think I can make that point and the two earlier points. So if members are happy for me to make that, the deadline is the 30th. So I would really like to get this consultation submitted in the next 2 days and the letter sent. So I think my question, Chair, is are members happy for me to make those amendments and then submit?
So do we need to take a vote on this? Are members quite happy for Dilly to make these amendments as per what councillors have said?
Yes.
Show of hands.
Seems to be accepted, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
So going on to item 12 on the agenda, financial matters.
Yes, in view of the fact that the finance meeting couldn't take place, and there will be a finance meeting on the 10th of November, I just thought it was prudent to bring the September report to council. So you've got a report on income against expenditure, income against budget, income and expenditure against budget, which starts on page 481 of the pack. If anybody's got any questions, I will do my best to answer them.
Has any members got any questions for Delia? Doesn't seem to be any questions, Delia.
Okay. Well, if any occur after the meeting, please just let me know. And obviously, I'm always happy to answer questions about finance at any time. I think Councillor Hume's got a question.
Yeah, just two questions. I always point out when we have this report comes in front of us, it's the drop in income from the Newton Leys Pavilion at the moment. I always think it's worth to mention that as it's probably our biggest drop in income this year. But we all know the reasons for that, and I don't necessarily think it needs to go into huge detail, but I think it's important councillors are that we're aware collectively. Just a question in terms of the movement to and from general reserves at the end of the year. Are we expecting to see any decrease in our council tax income this year? And will that have an impact in terms of the rest of the financial year, or are we expecting that impact to happen next year?
At the moment, I'm working on a projected outturn for the year end, which will be reported to Finance on the 10th. I've been discussing it with the Chair of the Finance Committee today, and the likely movement. It depending on what you decide to do about a number of proposals that will be coming to council in the near future. I do think that we will underspend the budget again because of COVID, but there are opportunities to do some other to use funds in different ways, which we'll be discussing between now and March. With regard to the council tax base, I have asked Milton Keynes Council if they will let us have the tax base as soon as possible this year. I mean, as an authority, they are very good about supplying it at an early stage compared with many principal authorities. But I do not know yet what the impact of the increased number of council tax housing benefit claimants is likely to be on the tax base. So it could have a detrimental effect, and that could reduce our capacity to raise income in the year ahead. Also, there's no we have to face facts and understand that Milton Keynes Council has to find a huge amount of money this year because of the financial impact of COVID, and that potentially, we don't know yet, but you know, we've always got to be alert to the possibility that the grant that Milton Keynes Council has given to town and parish councils in the past is not guaranteed. It's not ring fenced by the government. It comes from the generosity of Milton Keynes Council. It's in their gift, and they may determine to do something different than they have in previous years. So I think we're going to have some quite challenging things to think about when we get to the budgeting.
Yeah, thank you very much for that report.
So in that case, if there are no questions, could I just ask that the report is noted, please?
Any other councillors, any other questions? Okay, so
the next item, Chairman, is the list of payments for ratification.
Yes. Do you want this?
If anyone's got any questions, otherwise it's for noting and for, for approval.
Noted.
Thank you. The next item after that is the market report, which is now which gives you an indication of what's been happening with the market. And very unfortunately, the vegan market that was planned for this Saturday was cancelled on Friday, or postponed on Friday, because of the high winds that were forecast on Saturday, and therefore it couldn't take place. But it has been postponed for this Saturday, so weather permitting, that event will take place. It's a pity that it had to be postponed, because we had 19 stalls booked on the 24th of October, which would have been really nice. We may not have as many, given that it's had to be postponed, but I'm hopeful. We've managed to achieve some progress with the electric pillars. They weren't, the feeder pillars weren't installed in time for the 24th, but we had secured agreement from Milton Keynes Council and from Ringway that they would allow connection to the lamp columns. But I expect that we will have the feeder columns in place for next Saturday. So the funds that have been set aside for generators shouldn't be needed. And really, that's all I've got to say. Just that it's, I think Will's report speaks for itself. It's very difficult, as Councillor Stevens said earlier, for us to promote the market without being clear about where the market is going to be located going forward. And we're doing what we can at the moment.
Okay. Has any councillors got any comments to make regarding this report? No. Nobody.
Councillor Stevens, I think.
Councillor Stevens.
Thank you, Chair. The only question I've got is what incentives have we got to retain existing market holders and encourage new stall holders onto the market square? Because you see, but it's diminished. We're losing market stall holders. Is there different approaches we can do about, I don't know, introducing loyalty rates or reducing pitches or providing the pitches for them?
Well, previously the council made a decision, I think it was in September, to reduce the rent. So at the moment we are offering both casual and regular traders a 75% discount in rent. Our market rates were very low beforehand, and they're even lower now, and you can see the impact that's had on the income if you look at July and August, and then look at the September and October figures, and that does represent a reduction in the number of traders, but it is not such a massive reduction in the number of traders. It's more a reduction in the rent. So I don't think we're uncompetitive in terms of cost. The problem with a market is that you need a critical mass, and I mean the technical definition of a market is that there have to be at least 4 stalls. Well, we don't have a day when we have 4 stalls present together at the moment, and we need to do something to attract that minimum number so as to be able to grow the market. And I think the uncertainty about the social distancing has made it more difficult rather than less to put forward, you know, to proceed with the advertising and so on.
Okay, thank you.
I think the big challenge for Bletchley is that it's become increasingly difficult for market traders to make profit, and it's because of at least partly because of the competition.
Yeah. Okay. Is everybody happy?
Kelly Wilson.
Kelly Wilson. Sorry.
Thank you, Chairman. I was just going to say that I think that that's why I believe that the vegan market is really important. I think that the future, you know, sometimes things have to change, and they have to be renewed. They have to be regenerated, and I know that a lot of people speak about the old Bletchley market with a lot of fondness, but I think that general markets are you know, waning all over the country. This is not just a Bletchley issue, and we perhaps need to pivot to more specialist markets in order to bring people in. And you know, I'm not saying there's no place for general markets, but I think having those general market stalls that are there whilst there's a specialist market going in is likely to increase the footfall and bring people back. But I can't see us, if we look over the last 4 years, we've seen a decline in the amount of income that we've had from a general market. So I think it needs to change.
Okay.
Councillor Hume
Councillor
is
Hume,
wishing to speak.
take yourself off mute.
There we go. I think, yeah, you're right, Ethan, about the specialist markets. And actually, the council did agree in the motion in September that I brought forward, which was about the reduction in the rate and the advertisement. But also, there was also part of the motion was to explore the options for next year about having specialist markets. And fortunately, I know we've had the vegan market come forward, which I think is great. But I suppose it's a question for the clerk and the officer team is how has the work gone on for exploring for specialist markets next year? Within the context of everything else that we're doing, I realise it may not be top of the list at the moment, but just seeing if there's an update on that.
I think it's fair to say it hasn't been the top of the list. We were pleased that we've managed to secure the vegan market, and we are continuing to look for dates next year. If the vegan market's successful, we'll certainly be inviting them back again, and we're doing exploration to find other specialist markets that we could perhaps introduce next year. But I wouldn't say we've got anything definite in the calendar yet.
Okay. So we're moving on to item 12.
I'd ask you to note the report, please.
Yeah, it's noted.
And make any, you know, if there's anything else arising from it.
Is there anything else arising from this report, or should we just go straight to noting? Okay, so it's noted.
Thank you.
So we're going on to a report about George Street Community Centre.
Yes, there is a report which I'm in a position to update on. As you can see, Will's provided quite a lot of pictures of some of the works that have been done, and the work that the council agreed to have completed has now been finished, with the exception of the parquet floor. Although the parquet floor is looking wonderful compared with the way it looked previously, it has we were not prepared to sign it off because during the sanding process some indentations in the floor became apparent. The floor is flat and true, but the sander that's been used to sand the parquet bricks has bitten into some of the tiles, and therefore we didn't consider it as being of an acceptable standard. Very helpfully, both the chairman of the council and the chair of finance committee have been to look at the floor, and they agreed with Will and I that we couldn't sign it off. So negotiations have continued about the floor, and this last week we had a specialist in to look at. I think if you look at page 504, you can see some of the indentations in the floor. So we had a specialist floor expert come in and quote for give us his opinion on the work, and quote for remediation of those dents. His view was that the work overall was sound, but that the wrong kind of sander had been used to achieve the final finish, and that it would cost approximately, well, he quoted specifically £2,400 to put the floor right, to remove those dents. So negotiations have continued with the existing contractor, and we've secured their agreement to reduce their bill by £2,400. So the proposal that I've discussed with the Chair of Finance and that he was in support of, and he's sorry he can't be here tonight, is that we accept the contractor's offer to reduce the bill by £2,400, and that we then have a floor specialist come in to repair the floor. My concern is that this will cause further delay if we do this now. So my proposal would be that we delay that repair until the early part of next year, bearing in mind what we anticipate will happen with the premises at the end of the year. And rather than delay access to the tenant's access to the hall, we allow that to resume as soon as possible, and then we do that repair work at the beginning of next year. So I don't know how members feel about that, but that's the situation we're in at the moment, and that's the plan to go forward.
Well, thank you for explaining that out. I mean, the one issue that I was going to have was about the damage to the floor, and you've explained that quite clearly, and I would suggest that we go with that recommendation. We have got issues to finish off with George Street by the end of the year, so subject to that, I think that we go with the repair this year. Is there any other comments to make?
I think we should go with the proposal I think we should go with that proposal. Oh, sorry, did I jump in, Ethan?
No, that's fine. Carry on.
I just jumped in, which is bad of me. I think we should go with that proposal. I think the work that, from those pictures, the work looks very good. It's a bit disappointing that they used the wrong type of sander, but they're covering that cost by taking it off our fee. So it's not the most ideal situation, but I think it's the fairest way we can be at the moment. And I think the proposal looks good in terms of delaying it until early next year. And I think it's just worth saying thank you to the clerk and to Will, and also to the chair of the council and the chair of the finance committee for doing those inspections and following that work through.
Councillor Eaton.
And then Councillor O'Rourke.
I was going to say it looks brilliant, and I'm so glad that we've made the decision that we did. I know it cost us more than what we were initially wanted to pay. But I think that the building is restored closer to what it originally looked like, and the floor looks amazing. And thank you to everybody, well done. And I'm totally in agreement with the proposal that's been put forward.
Councillor O'Rourke.
Right. The damage to the floor is appalling. There's nothing good about that at all, and I hope you're going to retain the retention. I don't know how much percentage retention you got on them until that's repaired. And don't do what Milton Keynes normally do, is pay them off like they've done with Chandos Square and the town centre, and they don't come back and repair damage. And the firm, of course, still exists.
Okay, Councillor, thank you very much for that. So, Councillor Ethan? Ethan? No? Okay. So, can we go with this proposal, councillors, and the recommendations made by Delia? All in favour? All in favour?
Thank you.
So that's carried.
So now we move to the.
So we're moving to item 13 on the agenda, is parking enforcement in Bletchley, Fenny Stratford Town Council.
Yes. Would you like me to introduce this item as well, Chairman?
Yes, please.
You can see the report which explains that a group of councils, parish and town councils, have got together with Milton Keynes Council to discuss potentially purchasing additional parking enforcement hours from Milton Keynes Council in the next financial year, either for enforcement activities in the parish, or for cameras at school gates, or a combination thereof. And therefore I've put the proposal to you, and I need to return a more definite, I mean, on behalf of the council, I expressed interest in this scheme. Now we're getting to the stage where I need to go back to Milton Keynes Council with a more detailed expression of our interest, if we have interest. I've been talking to other councils about what they've been doing and what they are thinking of contributing to any additional enforcement hours. I know that West Bletchley, who've been doing quite a lot of work on parking of late, have left the way open for themselves to make a contribution and buy some additional enforcement, but not on the scale that has been proposed by the head of parking, who has said to me on more than one occasion that the only way to really make an impact in Bletchley Town Centre is by having 2 full-time parking attendants, which would in fact equate to £50,000. And I think that's a very significant investment for the town council, when we wouldn't have a complete control over that activity. So I have quite, as much as I understand the very significant concerns about parking, and these are issues which have come up in the community consultation on the town deal, which have been coming up for years and years, and which we know are really important. I'm not absolutely convinced that enforcement is the only route to look at. There are other options that the town council could consider, such as physical barriers. Other options, some councils have employed a parking education officer rather than an enforcement, putting money into enforcement, where the parking education officer has gone and tried to work out in the community with businesses or schools or individual streets or communities to try and educate people about parking and change behaviours in that way. There's more than one way to tackle this issue, but this is one option that the council needs to think about, and it's a matter for you to say what, to let me know how you wish me to proceed on this one.
Thank you, Delia. I mean, in Bletchley and Fenny Stratford Town Council, especially in the High Street there, and many of the other areas in and around central Bletchley and Fenny Stratford, the parking has always been a contentious issue, and always have been. And whether we go to parking enforcement. I've been to many meetings. I've sat in many meetings with parking enforcement at Milton Keynes Council, and they always come back with the same issue, that there's a lack of funds, always a lack of funds. And then when it comes down to an agreement that they make, and yes, we do see some parking enforcement because they used to come into the town council and say they're in the town centre, but we still get issues down our town centre. We still get problems in different areas. And, I just don't understand why this is always an issue in the town centre, and why we haven't come to a solution by now. Any other councillors with any other comments?
Councillor Hume wishes to speak.
Councillor Hume.
So I think this is quite an interesting report. And I think there's some wider issues here. So I think, and I've mentioned this to Jill and to Dee, and Jill's persistent work. So the first thing I think we need to look at is, do people know where they can park? So if you're visiting the town, where do you park? Now, for people who come in regularly, they know the situation about parking, but there is no sign. There's very little signage as you come into the town, and there's and so I know I asked you whether there could be something looked at on that to see how we can do some signs. So I think that would be a good way of using some of our funds, our surplus funds this year, to look at that. But that's not going to stop the problem of poor parking. And I don't think a full-time camera in front of a school, I don't think that's quite what we probably want to spend our money on, unless if we have some specific issues at schools and we work with the schools, and if they're in agreement, we potentially could work with them. But I don't think any schools have discussed any parking issues with us or anything. So I think it'll be quite difficult to do the school camera situation. In terms of a full-time parking officer, I think the best way of dealing with parking is to make it so you can't park dangerously or you can't park illegally. That's the best way of dealing with parking. And I think we need to be making sure as the details come out of the town deal board, especially relating to Queensway, that we feed in and we ensure that the designs, the final designs, deal with some of these parking issues. But even if that goes through the process, the delivery of some of that work may be a year out, maybe 2 years out. I'm not quite sure on the timeframes of the actual delivery of that particular project. So I'm just wondering that I'm inclined to say I'm in favour of having 2 full-time parking officers. And I know it's a significant amount of money, but I also know that when we saw the parking officers on Queensway, when the high street started to return, we saw a reduction in the parking issues that commonly plague that street. So I know it's a lot of money, but I also know and I think we maybe just need to think about this a little bit more in terms of our year out turn and what we're expecting for next year. And it's really hard to say that. But if things are looking sensible for this year in terms of the surplus, and also potentially next year, depending on how much the council tax reduction scheme kicks in, I would potentially be in favour of looking at for a whole year. But it would have to be on the condition that we could give some directions in terms of where they should go. So it could be that Queensway is done every single day, and they could be on Queensway all day, but actually you might want to move them to Aylesbury Street, or there might be something else in the town that we feel needs enforcing. But that's kind of my opinion. I'll be interested. It's kind of where I am at the moment on these thoughts, and obviously views.
Chairman, Councillor Kelly Wilson wishes to speak.
I was just coming to that.
Hello there. Sorry. So I don't want to accuse any other council officer of misdirection, but I've just been sitting here doing the maths on it, and I mean, I was really surprised by just how many tickets someone needs to issue a day in order to pay for 2 full-time parking officers. And, you know, on my back of a fag packet, 2 full-time parking officers over 312 shopping days in a year need to issue 5 tickets a day to generate 55,000. I think that I could walk down Queensway on any day and probably park out more than 5 parking contraventions. So I'm a bit astounded that I'm a bit astounded that we're being asked to contribute to this cost. And I just want us to assure ourselves that, you know, I know that a neighbouring police authority has gone to parish councils because they think they've got lots of reserves and asked to top up services. And I'm just concerned that actually we're now looking at other areas of enforcement that we're being asked to pay for. I'm not against it, but we appear to be being told here that it would not wash its face and we need to contribute, and I don't believe that based on the information that I've calculated myself.
Thank you, Councillor Kelly Wilson. Councillor O'Rourke.
Can you hear me now? Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
No, thank you. I don't think we should do anything in the high street until we know what the hell's going on down there. People are confused enough as it is without traffic wardens moving them on to areas that they don't understand where they've got to park, which way they've got to go up and down the streets. It's confusing for enough for people who actually live here. As for signage to the town, there's plenty of signage. It's been put up in the past 5 years, brand new signage, but it has to be put up at a height where the trees grow over it, so you can't see the signs. They're buried in the trees outside Iceland's. And the one down Lennox Road has been knocked down. They just need replacing and brought down to out of the trees so you can see where the signs are. There's plenty of signage. So I think till Milton Keynes Council have made a decision of what's happening, where the market's going, and that I should just leave well alone.
Okay, thank you for your comments, Councillor O'Rourke. Councillor Gary Kenworthy.
Thank you, Chair. I am very much in alignment with the last two councillors on this. I don't think we should be going down the £50,000 route. We have talking to the warders, enforcers on a number of occasions, people who've had their cars, you know, with the fines placed on them. I've actually talked to quite a few of these people. There is confusion. There is a lack of signage. There's the wrong signage, contradictory signage. So there's so many different problems with roadworks where things have not been, the signage hasn't been put back correctly. We have so many complaints about we didn't know what the true state of affairs was. And so I think we need to actually say, what is, very much from Councillor O'Rourke, what is going to be the future and where is going to be the parking? Are the wardens of it have told me on 3 or 4 occasions that their information on their computers are out of date, so they don't know what the area is that should be, because that contradicts with the signage. So we need to have clarity, and we don't need to be upsetting a lot of people, and I don't think we should be upsetting a lot of the local traders at the moment who in these COVID days and for the next year will be struggling. So I don't think it's appropriate use of £50,000, and I totally agree with Councillor Kelly Wilson. It's like, hey, they've got some money, let's borrow, let's take off them, when we shouldn't be the providers of the funds. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And Councillor Ron Haynes.
Well, can you hear me okay, guys?
Yes.
In the past, we got caught out once before by with the PCSOs. Oh yeah, you can buy one and you get one free. And we never got the one free, and the one we bought never turned up because I was used somewhere else. And for us to pay £50,000 into a company that's not doing a very good job now, don't look great, does it? They're not the greatest of traffic wardens. And I had a problem in one of the areas, and I asked, it's a private land. I asked the company, and they said, "Oh yeah, we bring traffic wardens in." So I said, "How much would that cost the residents?" They said, "Nothing. They make their money on the tickets." So other companies are making money on the tickets. So I feel we should look at other companies rather than the one that Milton Keynes want us to buy. They're only a preferred company. They've not got sole rights. So I was given to understand by the head of highways. You know, so I believe that we should look at every aspect. And as for people saying, well, I don't know where I can park, where I can't park. Surely everyone who's passed the driving test knows they shouldn't park on the pavement.
Okay, thank you very much, Ron. Delia, did you want to come in and say something? Sorry.
I did, but I noticed Councillor Kelly Wilson also wanted to speak, so I'm happy to defer.
Two things. I was just going to say, I do believe there needs to be enforcement. So I'm not in agreement with the other things. What I'm concerned about is actually us paying for the enforcement on the basis that it's not sustainable to do it, because I believe it is. And secondly, I do believe that the Road Traffic Act, not sure whether it's 84 or 93, actually states that a principal council is the only authority that can enforce decriminalised contraventions on the road. So I'm not sure that we can actually bring in our own provider.
Okay. Delia, would you like to come in?
Yeah, I have to confess that I'm not absolutely clear on whether or not the principal authority can delegate permission for us to enforce. I am not sure that they can. It was possible in the past, but I'm not sure that they can. And that's something that would need investigating further. And certainly that is not what's being offered. What is being offered is what you know I've alluded to in the report. So I think that I mean that's something we can definitely explore, but I can't tell you the answer for that one. I'm concerned that you don't make a firm decision tonight. I don't think we have anywhere near enough information to make a decision about what we should do with this. I'm really just asking you for an indication of how interested you are, what sort of sums you're thinking about, so that I can tell the group of other parish councils and Milton Keynes Council what we might be minded to do or we might not be minded to do. I'd also like to feed into the debate that I did talk again to the Chair of Finance about this and about this specific sum of £50,000, which he did have considerable concerns about, and made the point that whenever purchasing any service that is topping up and a service that is already being provided by the principal authority, and parking enforcement is already being provided, however limited it is, or however ineffective people may feel it to be, or how effective and how generous it is. We just got to be really, really careful that we don't get ourselves into a situation where residents can use us of double taxation, and we would really, really need to have control over how those parking enforcement hours were used, and we were sure that they genuinely were a top up on top of what would be provided. And at the moment, I don't feel confident that we know yet whether that could be guaranteed. So for me, it's just a question of you giving an indication that I can take forward that is not committing us to anything, but is giving an indication to the other parties.
I'm thinking, sorry, Councillor, I'm thinking, you know, listening to all the councillors around the table at this present moment in time, is that there's a strong indication that, you know, we're not quite happy with topping up the service at this present moment in time. You know, we need some clear understanding of what that top-up service is going to be, and whether they're going to be capable of dealing with the issues in Bletchley for us on our behalf. Once you add that service, and we can't afford to keep on topping up, when you take away the service, we're going to be back to square one, as far as I'm concerned. If we can't afford to keep topping up the service goes away. It's not going to be sustainable. We want something more sustainable.
So would you be minded to sort of think about potentially a smaller amount as a trial?
No. No, I would not.
No, I don't mean to sign up to tonight. I'm hearing what some people are saying about not wanting to do anything until it's clear what's going on in the town centre. There's the town deal and all the rest of it. But I think one thing the council might like to think about is whether it wants to keep its options open in terms of this initiative by suggesting that you might consider a smaller amount. I'm just, you know, I'm not advising, I'm just asking so that.
Can I make a proposal? Because actually I do think that it is best to keep our options open, and I do believe that enforcement needs to happen. But one of the things that it seems to suggest here is that a group of councils club together and perhaps buy services. And I'm kind of I think it's good to explore that, but based upon the local communities, I have a feeling that Bletchley High Street would generate more tickets per car than other areas. And my concern would be that Bletchley and Fenny Stratford Town Council might end up subsidising other areas. So I would actually want to see, you know, like an investment appraisal of what we think is doing that money. And one of the thoughts that I was thinking about, if they're saying that across Milton Keynes they make a loss, actually I would want to see the proposal ring fenced to Bletchley and Fenny Stratford, because I just don't believe that, based upon you know, our community, that they would be making a loss, because we all know that we've been to Queensway, and we all know that we could probably issue more than 5 tickets a day. So I'd want to see a lot more detail before we do, but I do believe that we need more enforcement as well as more education.
Okay. Okay. Dia?
I need some guidance on how you want me to proceed.
Councillor Hugh?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to come back on Ethan's point. We just also have to bear in mind that any income that comes from tickets is also, the legislation states it has to be spent on specific things. Part of that will, I think, is recovering the cost of a traffic attendant, but also any surplus that we would make would probably end up having to go back into Milton Keynes Council's coffers to pay for things like subsidised travel, potholes, highways, and it is very much ring fenced under those areas. But I think I would like to make a proposal that we keep options open, including maybe a limited amount. We're not making a firm decision, but I think a proposal to keep the options open would be the best way forward at the moment.
Councillor Kelly Wilson, do you want to come back on that? No. So we got.
So you don't want to specify an amount, which is what you know. It's not a commitment; it's just an indication. You don't want to indicate an amount.
No.
Not at the moment.
Not at this moment, no.
And are you interested in school cameras or just parking officers, or both, or neither?
I think both.
Just so that I know how to go ahead. I've got to complete the form and go back to Milton Keynes Council with a response.
Again, in the detail, they're installing cameras, and who's going to be manning these cameras, and what impact are these cameras going to have if it's not going to bring more enforcement?
Well, I think the legislation for schools is slightly different. So you can have cameras that then are used to issue tickets remotely. So you know
that's what I wanted to understand. Sorry, that's what I wanted to understand. The cameras are enforcement cameras that will issue tickets generically. Oh yeah, I'm in favour for that.
But it can only be done outside schools, so you can't put
only outside schools. Yeah.
Rick Pickles restricted council's ability to use them anywhere.
So I think the answer is both. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're interested in both, but not very interested. Not prepared to say how much money. Sorry, I shouldn't laugh. I'm just trying to sort of think how I can express this to Milton Keynes Council. There is some interest, but you don't feel able to commit to a particular sum.
Until we know more details.
Okay.
Until we know more details.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So moving on to item 14, 74 to 76 Queensway.
Yes, just bear with me for a moment. There aren't any papers on this item.
No. Can switch off now then.
I just need to so Right. So this item, I think this concerns the arrangements for the potential subletting of 74 to 76 Queensway, and therefore I think it is commercially sensitive. And I would ask you to consider whether you want to consider this item in, whether you wish to consider this in confidence.
Would it be useful before we go into confidential matter to go on to item 15? And is that a confidential matter as well? Item 15. We can finish off the rest of the agenda and then go into confidential.
Yes, that would be fine. Yes, if that's what you wish to do.
So I'm proposing just Councillor Hume.
Just aware of the time at the moment. We've only got 9 minutes left under our standing orders. Although I think we probably started at a few minutes after 7:30. Are we going to be able to get all of these items done in that time?
Well, I mean, if we go on to item 15 first, and then we'll see what the confidential matters, how much time we've got left for item 14.
I'm just really nervous that we keep on pushing past the 9:30 on successive town council meetings, and
Yes,
an order isn't there for a reason, and we just need to be careful of going over it all the time.
When we reach that allotted time, then we can see.
Well, Chairman, I would say that with regard to item 15, that matter can be dealt with by correspondence as we are running out of time. I think that could be. I think the timetable for the budget and precept setting could be dealt with by correspondence and then considered again on the 10th of November at Finance Committee.
Okay, that's fine.
With regard to Queensway, it's more a question of reporting, although I was looking for a potential decision. And with item 16, I do particularly want to consider item 16, if that's possible, please, because I would like some authorisation on something there, and that is certainly a confidential matter, I think.
Okay.
So we're going to confidential session.
So
thank you.
I'm proposing that we go into a confidential session. All those in favour of that, please signify by raising your hands.
Thank you.
That's everybody.
So that being the case, I think it might be wise for Gavin and Marie to leave us at this point, because they haven't signed their declarations of acceptance of office yet, or signed up to the code of conduct and so on. So Chairman, I don't know if you would like to ask them to leave, and I will be in touch with them as soon as possible.
Okay, thank you very much. So
councillors.
Thank you, newly appointed councillors, but it's time to say goodbye, and we'll see you at next Zoom meeting. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone. See you all soon.
Thank you. Thank you. So let me just check. We've got a quorum. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes, we have. Would you like to deal with the spotlight item first?
Are we still live on YouTube?
Oh yes.